Seeing not only Omni-Man, but Mark as well on the same team is a lot scarier than I thought it would be. What's even more scarier is the fact that Mark is probably the only one that can stop Omni-Man, yet in other dimensions and multiverses, they've teamed up together. Emotions are really running high this season, and rightfully so, because a lot of stuff went down in the first season, and we get to see Mark and Debbie do their best to grieve and cope with what happened. And personally, I'm just amazed for two reasons, because one, I can't even imagine how you would cope with something like that, how you could cope with living with someone, marrying someone, and having a child by someone, and they see you as a pet, or how you thought you were the son of a superhero, but he's actually evil and you admired this guy, and in an instant, the whole 17 years you thought were real, it's completely shattered. That's a super hard reality to live in. And the second thing I'm amazed with is just how well they're conveying how much Debbie and Mark are struggling. Like, not only did Debbie get time off from work, but Mark took off some time from school as well. They've done a really good job showing us how Mark is facing that challenge of going back to school, but I kind of wish they'll show us of how Debbie is facing more of those challenges, like if she's facing some scrutiny in her work environment as well. She seems to be a realtor, so I'm not sure how much interaction she would have with other people in her workplace. But it would still be nice to see. I mean, it is more than obvious that they're gonna need all the support they can get, and I'm glad to see Mark getting that from Amber and Eve, and Debbie, she's getting that from a friend of hers. I really thought that Mark would kind of quit being a superhero for a while, but it seems like he's taking it easy. He's trying to work for Cecil, kind of take his mind off things, and I think that'll pose a great distraction, as well as school, because being alone and sitting in your thoughts, that really doesn't help well when you're grieving or trying to get over something. And y'all, I gotta say, Amber, she's doing a great job this season. She's being very supportive, she's being a very caring girlfriend, and I love to see it. I know I ship Samantha and Mark, and I feel like they'd be better for each other, but I still gotta give Amber credit where credit is due. So hopefully she keeps that up. Also, it was good to see Immortal Man back into the picture. I feel like he could really help out the Guardians of the Globe, because they really need the help. They really need the manpower. But that's not really good for Mark, because Immortal Man doesn't really trust Mark because of Omni-Man, and I can't say that I blame him, especially considering what we know of the other Marks in the other dimensions and multiverses. That's going to be interesting to see how Mark moves past that and deals with that. Mark is also going to have to deal with Angstrom Levy, I believe that's how you say his name, and while he started off pretty noble and with a pretty genuine cause, even willing to get mixed up with the Mahler twins, unfortunately his noble cause did not remain. The end result is him now pursuing Mark and becoming a villain, so it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Now, as far as the second episode is concerned, we get to see a little bit more of Eve, and Eve said something about quitting being a superhero, which I could have missed it, but I'm not sure if she wants to quit because of what happened with Omni-Man or something else. Whatever the case may be, I'm still interested in her story. She still seems to have that weird family dynamic, that weird family struggle going on, especially with her dad. And she's also having a struggle with her powers, and that puts an interesting spin on things, because Eve now has to deal with the consequences of her powers. It's going to be interesting to see everyone figure themselves out, because Mark and Eve, they've both graduated along with everyone else. So this is the real test. I feel like after high school graduation, that's where the real journey typically begins. Mark is talking about going to college with Amber. I wonder if he's going to still remain on that path, or if something else is going to come up and he's going to have to change his mind or pursue something else. And y'all are probably going to think I'm petty for this, but it was nice to see Rex get a little bit of karma, because what he did to Eve, cheating on her, that was really dirty. And then he goes to the locker rooms and the bathrooms or whatever and find out that he's getting played. I did not expect it to be Immortal Man of all people, but neither did Rex. To be honest, Rex might be having a hard time this season, because if you remember, he didn't exactly get off on the right foot with Bulletproof, who I got to say, he seems very promising, and I can't help but be interested in his story. I'm also interested to see what exactly Cecil is playing at, because I don't know whether or not to trust him, especially when we see Donald is back again and he doesn't really address Debbie's concerns or Donald's questions, so I'm kind of suspicious of Cecil. Then we have the issue of Shapesmith, where I'm not too suspicious of him compared to Cecil, because I think he actually has good intentions, but I gotta follow his story a little bit more before I make a decision, because I'm still kind of on the fence. Lastly, I want to briefly talk about the interaction we saw after the credits with Mark and Angstrom Levy, or at least one of the Marks, because we have this Cecil and this Donald. But apparently the Omni-Man of this time was taken down, and that left Mark a little bit vulnerable and then kind of caught him when he was lacking. It left me a little confused, but I'm hoping we'll get to see a little bit more of his story and what's going to happen with him. It's kind of interesting to see all of these marks and see how they're living differently. I mean, I got to say, I'm really loving that aspect of this season. I'm glad we get to see these other dimensions, what's going on in the multiverse. Like, it really puts an interesting perspective on things. And I genuinely can't wait to see what happens next, what happens with the season overall. Anyway, that's all I have for episodes 1 and 2. I appreciate y'all. I thank y'all for your likes, subscriptions, and comments. I thank y'all for tuning in. SierraNovaa is out.